So what are the winds? Separation, misperception, competition, and defensiveness. Now, why are they the winds of conflict? How does that set us up for conflict? Well, let's talk about separation. You may not have been told as a child you're a child of God. You may not have been told that you are divine. Well, I'm here to tell you you are. You may not have been told you possess the powers of God. But we're told in Genesis that we're made in the image and the likeness of God. And if that is true, and I believe it is, that means that we possess those same powers as God through our Christ-centered. Separation may be a way of ego protection. We all have an ego. And there's a constant battle between the ego and the superego. Now, if you're not familiar with those Freudian terms, ego is our perception of who we are. The superego is our conscience that says you've been a bad boy or girl. So, if something threatens our perception of ourselves, then we get to feeling separate from people, and we feel separated. And you may have learned too that others control you. You may have learned to avoid conflict, which I did as a kid. You resist change. That's normal. And you have a need to be right. That goes in along with your ego. Next is misrepresentation. Every conflict has that element in it. We need to have the capacity to accurately interpret the conflict and separate it from our prior learning. We all have had events in our life that set us up that give us a built-in, oh my gosh monitor, they're against me. But we've learned that those powers are outside us. As Eric Butterworth was fond of saying, God's not out there, God is in here. And that's how we've been misrepresented, thought misrepresentation, by our growing up in, most of us, traditional churches. You're also taught you're a horrible, bad, awful sinner. And you're going to hell if you don't repent and take Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Well, that's a bunch of hooey. The only person you have to defend is your ego. That's taught to you. And there's a conflict. You can't protect your ego and accept the fact that the power is within you. So, conflict creates a wall or a displacement between what we know and what we don't know, what we see and what we don't see. That's called help me, Marcia.
Looking at the world through rose-colored glasses? No.
Yeah, but that's there you go. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
I hate it when something goes south and I'm standing up here. And somebody in the audience is smarter than I am.
I can identify.
Another one of those wins is competition. We have competing needs, goals and values. My competing needs are different than Marcia's, or Judy's, or Phil's. Our goals are different. Our values are different, depending on how we were raised. Well, as the conflict escalates, somebody's got to be right. And by damn, it's going to be me. That's the way we operate. We hesitate to capitulate because we've been taught that you got to win. Any played a game like Yahtzee or Word? You're out to win, aren't you? Marcia, you're out to win. You're a cutthroat competition person.
Yes.
Well, what happens if you're the loser? You get mad, you get angry, you get resentful, and you feel diminished. As if you're less than the person that won. Well, I'm here to tell you that ain't so. You're equal. And winning actually reinforces our inferiority because needing to be right makes us have a sense of insecurity and of inadequacy. We're taught in school all kinds of competition. One of my best friends in grade school, whom I still connect with, Tom Mao, the third. No, he was the second. Anyway, he and I used to compete for a grade in science. We fought tooth and nail to figure out who could be the best in science. Well, he beat me. He now has his doctorate in biochemistry. And believe me, that's a tough doctorate. But I don't feel bad about it. I feel happy for him. I also got my doctorate, so see, that's and we got it probably close to each other. But Tom spent his life, instead of science, doing scientific writing. He headed a medical magazine for years and then decided to move to the West Coast and become the science and medicine writer for the LA Times. And he recently retired. But we used to compete. You play baseball. My team has to win, your team has to lose. There's always that edge. America has to be great so we can lord over the rest of the countries. Or we have to be isolationists and to heck with those other countries. That's been probably since Eisenhower left office. Because Roosevelt and Truman both set us up as a world of equality. Several decades ago, Ronald Reagan decided that all mental health people ought to be in the least restrictive environment. So they closed all the psych hospitals in California, except for a couple. What happened? We have a huge homeless population across the United States. Now, why is that? What difference does mental health have to do with it? And that least restricted environment? Well, in the process, they decided that these mentally ill people didn't have to be forced to take their medication. So they gave them pills, sent them out to a home, a group home, or to an apartment, and they get tired of taking the medication. Some of the medications make you feel worse. Thorazine. You walk around like a zombie. The other medications are very similar. So they can't take their medication readily because of that, or the moment they begin to feel better, well, I don't need it anymore. She's done that with her medications. I've done that with my medications. And I bet most of us in the room have. When we start feeling better, and we don't need that anymore. The final win is that of defensiveness. Our ego needs to be protected, so we're going to be defensive if you attack me. Last week, I think I talked about games people play. Now see what you made me do? Or I got you. She didn't hear those. I don't know if she listened to my sermon online. But those are defense mechanisms. In a way, Freud thought they were built in. But we've since learned that those are learned behaviors. Why do you feel defensive? That need to be right. That need for competition. And so on. Your whole body participates in defensiveness. There's a condition known as fight or flight. Now picture this with me. This caveman walks out of the cave, goes hunting, and he sees one of them big saber-toothed tigers. So he beats feet back to the cave because his body sensed a danger. And so adrenaline went up, the cortisol went up, blood pressure went up, heart rate went up, so that he could run like hell or fight like hell. Well, he figured that saber-toothed tiger wasn't anybody to tangle with. But he went out another day, and he saw a person from a different tribe who they didn't get along with. Again, that fight or flight arises, and he bashes that intruder over the head with the club. That's the fight. Your whole body participates when you get defensive. The pituitary gland sends out all kinds of signals, because it's the gland that controls the body. And it's also the gland that Charles Fillmore, our founder, said was the center of our knowledge. Now, he didn't say that in the 12 Powers, but he said it in one of his other writings, The Mystery of Genesis. But your whole body is going to get ready if you feel attacked. Well, don't dismay. I said those were winds. Am I going backwards? Yep, I was. As I said, those are winds. So how do you make a windbreak to keep those things away from you? First, know you're not your parts. You're not your illness. You're not that anger you feel. You're not that defensiveness. So if you know that, you know your true nature as a divine child of God. Furthermore, you're not your experiences. They help shape who you are and your belief system today, but you're not those experiences. You're perfect despite outward appearances of being less than good. You are the energy of being and doing. Think about that. You're an energy. And we know from science that energy of thoughts can control that teeny, teeny, weeny, 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 beady, beady, beady quark and determine whether it's going to be a solid or a wave. So if your mind can control that, it can control everything else in your life. It can change. Now, it doesn't happen as quick with us because the quark doesn't have our baggage. So we got to work on our baggage. And that means you've got to learn you're not your experiences. Let them go. Do a fearless moral inventory, as I said last week, of what you feel. And when you feel it. And what makes you upset. And when you figure that out, you got to figure out why. You need to figure out why you're acting the way you are. If you're not acting out of your Christ center. Now, we're not there all the time. I sure as heck ain't. She'll tell you. But I take a look at what triggered that. And I keep it in my journal that's on my computer, or was on my computer. It didn't transfer over. But that journal is just to remind me of what went on during that day. And to dump the junk. So your energy, and that energy affects every single person in the world. How many of you remember the Beatles and Maharishi something or other? Anyway, they had this guru. And he taught them transcendental meditation. And he decided to have an experiment. He thought if 1% of the world changed their thinking, just 1% of the world changed their thinking, the world would become peaceful. Well, he started out small, just in Philadelphia. During the month after that experiment of everybody sending positive thoughts, positive energy to Philadelphia, the crime rate went down significantly. The mayor said it had to be a miracle. Well, a few years ago, a guy by the name of Thomas decided he was going to try that experiment. So he developed an app. He didn't figure it out to put it online, that you could do it online then, but he created an app. And he sent word to all the people who were practicing TM and suggested that they focus on New York City, the crime rate. And following that experiment, the crime rate went down in New York City a fourth of what it had been. Now believe me, statistically, that's a significant figure. If we can affect a fourth of the criminals in the world, then we can affect the world in general.
Was that when Rudy Giuliani was mayor?
I think so, yeah. I'm not sure. I stole that from a reading, so I don't have the dates and all. But a society known as IONS that was started by the famous astronaut Edgar Mitchell has been doing studies on consciousness and how it affects the world. Like most scientists, the people there started small, and an Australian by the name of Sheldrake had set up an experiment where a bunch of people concentrated on a random number generator. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's a program or a machine that spits out numbers at random. There was absolutely no pattern to it. He did that experiment for a month. Or they did that experiment for a month. Lo and behold, those numbers And that generator started developing a pattern. So being created in the image and likeness of God, we have that capacity built in. You're the product of your thoughts. And you can fight each one of those four winds. Separation, you're not separate from your body. You are whole. Misrepresentation, you've been taught the wrong things. Competition, you've been taught that you got to be the best. You can't just be you got to be the best. And defensiveness. I'm not going to let you win. I'm going to win. Well, that made me mad. That's defensiveness. So, the takeaway for you today is to remember, one, no one is against you, and two, your thoughts can change things and change your life. And just as our book study this afternoon will talk about, the positive prayer. That's one of the things we Unitics believe in. Those five steps to prayer. The first is relaxation. If you're tense, you can't really meditate or pray. The second is develop your denials and affirmations. The third is concentrate on those denials and affirmations. With all you are, with all you might. The fourth step is go into the silence. Jesus, our way short, always prayed by himself. Except when he prayed over their meals. Or when he taught the Lord's Prayer. Which, by the way, we believe is in Unity that's a model for prayer, not a prayer to be memorized rotely and recited like robots every Sunday. And the fifth thing is be grateful. Be thankful for what you have and who you are right now. Doesn't mean you got to like that, but it means be grateful. And the more gratitude you have, the more good stuff is going to come to you. And so now we move into our meditation. Phil, if you'll do some meditation music.
Phil.
Meditation music. I used to do that all the time in church. Okay, just make yourselves comfortable. And take a few deep breaths. And center yourself on your God within, your Christ. Feeling that way as your Christ. Know that you can change the world. All it takes is some of us people praying together for world peace. We'll have a group opportunity, I think it's September 14th, to meditate and pray with a Mass. Because that's Unity World Day of Prayer. But you don't have to wait. You can begin now. As you go to this Christ Center within, and feel the warmth of God's love that has been with you all your life. Feel God's greatness working in and as you. In your mind's eye, see yourself as healed of whatever ailment or problem you have, despite outward appearances. You are your thoughts. You are your thoughts. And now let us take a couple of minutes as we breathe in, I am, and as you repeat, as you breathe out, say, that I am. So your inspiration is I am, and your expiration is that I am. That's the name of God that he gave Moses. So take just a couple of minutes and repeat that thought in your mind. I am on the inhale, and that I am on your exhalation. And as you feel the warmth of God's love within you, send it back out to everybody in this room, to everybody in the town, everybody in the state of Kansas, everybody in the United States, everyone in the entire world. Send love to them even though we disagree. But they are children of God too. They may have forgotten it or never known it, but they are the children of God too. And now as you're sending yourself back to this place and time, you feel the chair underneath you that is God supporting you. And know that even when you're not sitting in a chair, God is still supporting you. Now when you're ready, open your eyes and breathe out relief. And breathe in God's love. Namaste.